California, and I'm joined today by Kim Lantis in Hermosillo, Mexico, and Carlos Ponce in Cuernavaca, Mexico. Hi, guys. Welcome
Hello.
back.
Thank you.
Seems like a short week this week. We got the holiday season cancellations that are happening, but we're happy to have our guest today, who's actually broadcasting all the way from Denmark, Michael Haase. Welcome to the show. We
Actually,
appreciate
it's,
having you
it's
here.
hot.
Haas.
Hot.
Good.
Hug.
Here we go. I'm consistently always botching up names. So,
Yeah.
you got to be consistent if you're going to do something, right?
Thanks for trying twice. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being with us. And we're going to have an interesting conversation with Michael today about artificial intelligence and a topic that interests all of us, healthy eating, especially now. Now, you wouldn't connect AI with eating. Seems like two opposite things, right? But before we get into that, which is going to be an interesting conversation, let's get to know Michael a little bit. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, so I'm Michael Haase, based out of Copenhagen, Denmark, founder and CEO of Plant Jammer. And I have a past where I used to work with a consultancy called McKinsey for some years, and also worked in investment banking. But in both those areas, I was working very much in the realm of sustainability. So commodity trading, working with the energy sector, and learning there that basically, we have a job to do when it comes to sustainability, and when it comes to sustainability, there's no better place to do something about it than in food, because in food we have within our own realm of control to do something about it, to act in our daily actions to actually make a difference. There's many spaces where you can't, like in energy sector, where you need to build big wind farms and have big capital projects. But in food, it's your habits, it's your actions you can do something about. So that's what got me into Plant Jammer, what I'm doing now.
You mean I can't just point the finger to someone and blame them for my own problems when it comes to food? So,
food.
Exactly. Let's talk about Plant Jammer. You founded this company. What do you guys do? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's quite simple. We help people cook. There's a food industry that's been telling us for the last 50 years, if you try to cook at home, you're probably gonna mess it up. So you should rather buy this product, right? We do the opposite. We actually tell people you can cook, and you can cook different every day. You can cook healthy every day. You just need a few tools, a few tricks, and that's what we teach them. So it's an app called Plant Jammer that helps people. You can type in what you got of ingredients, you'll be told what goes well together, and you end up with a recipe based on your choices, based on your preferences. And it's the whole technology behind that Plant Jammer is. Both the app itself and the software as a service business we created on top that enables these recipes to be put on other people's sites, brands, retailers.
Interesting. I want to learn more. Can it cook up reservations? Never mind. That's just a joke. That's how people cook sometimes. They cook up reservation. So let's go right into it. What's the topic of our conversation today? Please, Kim, will you introduce the show? Let's go right into it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Tulio, and thank you for being here, Michael. Today's conversation is how AI can empower us rather than choose for us. So specifically how to cook and eat healthy on our own terms. So you already mentioned a little bit about the sustainability interest that you have here. I mean, eating is obviously something that every single one of us has to do. And so there's a high impact area for that. But the key here is also to eat healthy. It's my understanding that Plant Jammer also incorporates some type of gamification. So that can make eating healthy fun, as odd as that might sound to the majority of us. How does that work?
Yeah, so basically, generally when we talk about health and healthy eating, people tend to talk about diets, right? They tend to talk about restrictions. They tend to talk about, I need someone else to give me, a meal plan that I have to follow, and it's all about sort of compromise. What we try to do different here is actually use the tools from that's used in AI, if you're going to use that as a term, to empower people instead, to have their own choices. So telling people that if you set up some targets, you want to eat more protein or more fiber, or you want to lose weight. And rather than giving you a meal plan, we're giving you these tools that enables you to play your way around it. You realize which ingredients are good for this. You realize which ones are less good. You get little points for the good ones. You're basically gamifying your way to a recipe that fits with your targets. You're learning about flavor along the way, getting you tasty and getting you to come back. But it's on your terms. It's you choosing the ingredients based on the advice from the AI.
I think that's really fun, and not just from a flavor profile, but this is probably, I imagine, very useful for people who have perhaps food sensitivities, allergies. And in my case, I'm a mom, and I have a 3-year-old now, a 9-year-old. And my biggest struggle a lot of times is, how can I make something that's healthy and fast, because, you know, life moves quickly, but that all 4 of my household members is actually going to eat. I know that's a bit of a high order and a bit of a complication, but is there anything that can help with like age groupings or profiles, in the sense of like, who's going to eat this? Like, is my whole family going to eat this? Because I want to eat maybe a salad with feta cheese and olives, but my 3-year-old's not going to eat that. Is that a tall order for you?
I think it is a tall order, but the thing is, the beauty of humans and at any age group is that everyone is a little bit different, right? Even at the low age group, they're still different. So for that reason, you cannot like put it into a box saying, okay, you're this age group, so this is what you can like. What you can do is give people the tool, the empowerment of you picking it yourself. And what we're learning is sense of ownership is super important. So when I go out with the tool at like messes and conferences, it happens quite a lot that you have these like 10, 12-year-olds who are coming over, and they get really into the game. And they keep on like building recipes, saying, hey, I want to make a quiche for my mother. I hate quiches, but my mother loves quiche. I want to make one. And then they're making this in the app, right? So this is a way for people to feel an ownership feeling. And once you have that ownership feeling, I pick the ingredients, I pick the dish type, I pick the restrictions. This is my recipe. Then you get another feeling around it, and that means that the 8-year-old can feel like this is my dish, even if they didn't cook it, but they were a part of the gamification of identifying, discovering that recipe.
I think that's really fun. Actually, you're definitely onto something. It makes me remember a couple weeks ago, my daughter had a homework assignment for the United Nations, and they got to do whatever they wanted. And we ended up picking Kenya and choosing some very common recipes, of that area of the world. And one of them was sukuma wiki, and it's collard greens. And she actually helped me prepare it, and we made it because we had to make videos and submit the homework. And then it came time to like record her to eat this dinner. And I'm thinking, whatever, she's not going to eat this. But she actually cleaned her plate and even ate the leftovers from the next day. And I think you're probably right. It was just the involvement and the fun. So I don't know why it hadn't dawned on me till now.
That's the thing. People tend to forget that food is a ceremony. Like when you're eating, it's a ceremony, and it's so much bigger than just your tongue and your flavor palate or whatnot. It's a ceremony, and the context getting you to this meal is just as important as the meal itself sometimes. That really makes a difference.
This is very intriguing, Michael. First of all, you should know I just forwarded the app to my wife while we're talking here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Because
being an ambassador.
we did a paleo diet at the beginning of the year, and it worked very well. I actually lost like a ton of weight doing it, and I felt great. And then you get bored, right? Because you eat stuff over and over and over. And as you get bored, that's when you revert back to the bad habits. So we moved, ended up putting on a few pounds again because we got bored. So one of the things I kept coming up with, there's got to be another way we can do this stuff to make it more fun, because food loses its fun, especially when you're following a strict diet. So does this, what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing this correctly, you can choose your path, right? Let's say it's like, I don't want dairy. I want to be mostly vegan with some protein. You can choose your path, and then it will automatically create plans for you that you just go out and buy the stuff and cook it. Is it that simple?
Absolutely not.
Okay, tell me about it. Okay. So how does it actually come together?
Yeah, so the whole principle here is exactly that, because of this whole, so what I learned when I was a McKinsey consultant was that, it's not about having the brilliant idea. That's not what's gonna make a client work, go in a certain direction. The sense of ownership is important. That the client made the idea themselves, were helped along the way, but they make it. It's super important. And this goes in food as well. So if we just gave a meal plan and some recipes, which we can technically do, then we wouldn't get this kind of compliance that we would like to have, where people actually stick to it and keep on doing it and don't just do it for a month, but actually continue to change their habits along the way. So rather than giving a meal plan, what we do is, once you've taken that pathway and said, I want to go in this direction, this is the kind of food I want, then you're going into the game. And then you get suggested ingredients, dishes that are compliant, but you are building these dishes yourself. You are making the decisions on the ingredients yourself, and you're not getting it as an autopilot, which is exactly what we have as a topic, right? It's like the empowerment, not as a like autopilot thing, but actually as you making the choices, you being in control, and not using AI to make choices for you, but empowering your choice.
Interesting.
With empowering your choice, is there also an educational element involved here? Are you describing, maybe you could substitute, let's say, onions, celery, or shallots? These are the benefits of each of these 3 foods. Make your pick.
Central part of our technology, and the one that our users remember the most, is what we call the gastro wheel. The gastro wheel basically has these components that you need to have in a dish if it tastes well, if the gastronomy is supposed to be right. So you need a base that's going to give you satiety, and that can be all kinds of veggies or grains or meats. Then you need your sour, your sweet, your umami, your crunchiness, and your aromas. And when you're covering this wheel of all these aspects, and you learn to balance these things against each other, you learn that is what tastefulness is. And that's the secret behind all the chefs when they're making something. Like, how do you make that soup taste like so much more than you can at home? It's just that. It's those balances of, sour, sweet umami, crunchy aromas. And you get that right, and then we're suggesting ingredients along this wheel. So you're learning about flavor along the way.
See, I'm getting hungry just talking about this stuff. It's like, to me,
welcome to my life.
it's like this is romantic to me. It's like, oh yeah, flavor and base. I love it. Okay, so it helps us to have ownership over choices that we make toward this end goal. I mean, obviously, we have to check out the app and see how it works, because it's got to be experiential, right? I'm curious, what have been some of the use cases of this? Have people used this that support, for example, people with diabetes, or people with high blood pressure who need less sodium, or people who have cholesterol? Have people used this for health purposes as well? Or any practitioners, like health practitioners, also adopting this as a way to gamify eating healthy in those cases? Can you share some use cases of that?
Yeah, this is a very interesting moving area. So we started off, the app was basically empty my fridge kind of experience, right? It's like, okay, what do I have? What can I make? And that's oftentimes actually how people get to the app.
Empty my fridge, or gotta hang in there till payday.
Yes. No, actually, it's more. I think it's coming in the US as well. In Europe, it's been for like 5-10 years almost. We've been really big on the food waste agenda. So how do we reduce food waste? And actually, half of all the food waste across the whole food chain is happening in homes. So it's something we can do something about. So that's how it started. Sorry, Carlos.
No, I was just going to say, I'm curious about something, and this is kind of brings in the element that we're all scattered all over the world in different places, different countries, different cultures. What sort of challenges have you seen from your standpoint regarding adoption? Because as you know, depending on the region of the world, people might have different views on food, or even different taste, or even different, they might not be keen to the idea of using technology to relate to food. So what sort of nuances have you spotted across the globe or across geographies that you might need addressing, sometime soon?
Yeah. So I think so what we learn is actually the whole idea of the gastro wheel, these components that you have. That's actually universal. That's our taste buds. That's us being Homo sapiens. That makes us taste that way. There might be a little bit more of an appreciation of the umami aspects in Eastern Asia, but nevertheless, we all use it. Like that's the reason why people could put ketchup on everything in certain parts of the world, and they put soy sauce in another part and sun-dried tomatoes in the third part. It's the same thing. It's umami. So you have the same components, but it's different ingredients playing the roles. Depending on your region, different ingredients are available, different ingredients are common. The parts of the world where you put a bunch of fruits on top of your salads is parts where it's like heresy to do so. And then you get sweetness in another way, right? So there's the ingredients, and then there's also the dish types that you would make, of course, the kind of methods you're used to using. So to adapt to the latter part, for the first part we adapt because basically you're choosing the ingredients, and we're adapting the neural network a little bit based on where you are in the world. So we are having other ingredients being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
What's coming on the other side is the dish types, and there we actually build a platform called Plant Jammer Studio, where any individual can come and create their own dish types. So they're basically building these frameworks that become hundreds of recipes. This is how I make a great stir fry, and then you can adapt that stir fries to a bunch of different ingredients. And we're actually inviting the crowd in to create those, and that way we're getting people in Iran to make dishes that are Iranian. We're getting people in Germany to make German dishes, if people want that, and getting that diversity in there via the crowd, so they can talk to the sort of building a straitjacket for the AI to work within.
So wait, are you planning to have people talk to each other and share those kinds of recipes as well? Because I'd love to figure out a way to make some vegan bechamel. I don't know how to do that, and if someone's figured that out, I'd want to know. I mean, is your plan to eventually have people share their recipes with each other or ingredients kind of create a social network around this gamification? This is like mind-blowing to me. I love this idea. Okay, go ahead, please.
Absolutely. So I think for us, obviously we need to focus. So we're not focusing on building a new social media. That's not sort of our game. There's other people who do great at that. However, we have built something we just call it folders, which is basically a bunch of recipes that you like that you can then share to someone else, and they can add to the folder. So that's part of the app, that you are actually having folders in common, and there you can have like the protein-rich one, the bechamel experimentation one, and the paleo one, right? So that way you can go within the themes, and you can sort of find your tribe, and within that tribe experiment and share what's happening.
That's really fun. I wanted to go back. You've mentioned just sustainability and food waste a couple times. So I'm picking up that that's a really big passion of yours. I can say from my own experience, I'm a little bit blown away, but half of the food waste that happens globally is in our own homes. Guilty. I try my best not to. I find that one of the things that I always, a matter of fact, this happened to me last night, nearly always throw out is a cucumber. Like I always see these beautiful cucumbers in the grocery store, and I bring them home thinking I'm going to eat fresh cucumbers. This is going to be my snack. And then by the time I actually get to them, they're like, I eat them, but they're really not at the state that I would like for them to be. So with your tracking and utilizing AI, are you able to kind of make recommendations to me, like quantities to buy, what to buy, maybe what to stop buying? How does this exactly help me waste less?
It's mainly at the end of the chain, because what happens for us is basically we changing buying behavior can be difficult, because that there's a lot of X factors there in terms of what's available. Is there a special sale for a lot of cucumbers or whatnot, which changes the game. So we have a hard time controlling that aspect. So we rather take it at the end of that as saying, okay, now you have your stuff, what can you do? And like, cucumber is pretty easy probably, but nevertheless, let's say you have cauliflower or something that is a bit more complex to work with, and you might have one recipe you can, with cauliflower. If you don't feel like that one recipe, you're in trouble, right? You're not going to cook that the cauliflower. So we believe if you give diversity and you actually allow people to play around with what else could I do, then you will get to use that cauliflower. So it's getting that diverse and get that gamification that I know, there's a boring looking cucumber in my fridge, I can make something else than this classic tomato cucumber feta cheese salad I always make if I just look around here. And you realize that cucumbers are great with peach, and you can make stuff with peach and cucumber. Who would know, right? And you start experimenting that way. So we believe in that sort of helping at the end of the journey, give more inspiration.
Are there recommendations for fruits or vegetables, produce, meats even, that are sort of at the end of their own journeys? What if it's no longer this fresh, beautiful element? Are there still ways that I can figure out how to play with that creatively?
Stew.
Yeah, stew, exactly. Just make a stew. No, we don't have like dedicated sort of journeys for, oh, now it's getting old, but it would make sense to a certain extent, right? There are like stuff like dried bread. That's the one of the examples where like actually dry bread, if you just use it as normal bread, is horrible, but if you make a gazpacho out of it, it can be great. If you actually are combining with a bit of water, you can actually reuse it as a flour and make great food muffins out of it, right? So there's these kind of the classical things you would waste, but are not going bad. It's exactly banana bread, right? So there are these classical things that you would tend to waste, but actually have a life longer than normally if you use it slightly different than we normally do. So that's why we have dishes that are helping out.
So, Michael, curious, how many languages is this available in right now?
Now it is in, I don't know, 6, 7. I think we have English, Spanish, Italian, French, German, Danish, Swedish, Finnish. We just added Finnish. Yeah. I think that's it.
So is the plan as to make this available globally? I mean, let me rephrase that. Which are the markets that need this the most? I know that's a little bit politically charged, right? Because there are some markets that need this the most. Okay, we just had Thanksgiving, one of the biggest food waste days on the planet. Okay, so we need this. Clearly, we need this for sustainability purposes. But what are some of the other markets that you see potential where they, maybe there's some countries that actually have some shortages in terms of certain food supplies, where this could be very useful, not only in planning, but also in just, having the right access to the right type of ingredients for what you're trying to accomplish. Any plans in terms of where you're going with it next?
Actually, I think my perspective is slightly different than yours in this one, Tulio. So for me, it's not necessarily about the shortages or figuring out that solution. To me, to focus on where we can make the biggest difference. I think right now it's about where people they don't cook enough. Because processed foods is a source of waste. It's a source of lack of health. And if we can get people just nudged a little bit towards more natural foods and real food, then we can make a great difference. So the places where people eat the most sort of processed foods, obviously US is one of those, UK is one of those, parts of Germany is as well. And that's a place where we can make a great delta, a big difference. If we can create a culture of it's not that difficult to cook. Don't be worried about it. Yes, they've been selling so in advertising for like 50 years that it's really difficult to cook, so you should probably just put it in the micro oven. But actually, it's not that difficult. And making that possible and empower people that way, then they can get into control of their own health, and that's a great feeling. So that's where we would focus more. Is probably where you have the most trust.
Nice.
Michael, I have a question. I'm seeing that you obviously contemplate a number of ingredients, ingredients in the sense of vegetables and other elements. Some of them might be even organically grown, or some other, might be grown in different regions of the world. Have you ever, and this is just out of curiosity, have you ever been approached by or reached out to fair trade organizations to make alliances and just maybe foster and promote a culture of eating healthy and in a fair trade setting or a fair trade atmosphere?
I think it makes a lot. We haven't done it yet. It makes a lot of sense. Generally, one thing that we've learned lately is that in food, everyone has their religion, everyone has their habits, everyone has their approach, and it's almost like a religion again, like you have some faith. And for that reason, you cannot build one app that does it all. It's you. I mean, we just from this conversation, I can see 20 different apps we could have made that could, adapt to different aspects, right? And there's going to be another 20 for every 1 minute we talk, right? So what we learned from that is basically, how about we take a step back and say, let 1,000 flowers bloom instead of us building 1,000 apps. What we've done is package the technology into an API, and then serve it, software as a service, where anyone who wants to make great recipe experiences, they can call our AI, they can call our recipe database, and the whole modularity around it, and they can build their experiences.
Okay.
So we're doing that with retailers who are building their own recipe experiences on top of this, and brands. And talking to fair trade companies would make a lot of sense in that aspect as well.
Yeah. Just remember, if you ever do a Mexican version, just remember that Tex-Mex is not Mexican by no means by no stretch of the imagination.
I lived in Guadalajara for 3 months, so
great.
I do know.
Great. That's very enlightening. So thanks for
drunken lengua is the best thing you could have at Guadalajara. It's amazing.
Yes.
So we're coming up on time, and then obviously it's I think most of Europe is GMO is illegal, so that's less of a problem there than it is here in the States with genetically modified foods. So congratulations for creating this. Is this your first startup, Michael? Is this your first business building?
It is. Okay.
So what's that experience been like for you? First, to build a company, and then second, to build a company that is very disruptive in terms of introducing the opposite of what is constantly pushed at everyone, right? Just buy prepackaged, and you're like, no, let's go back to cooking stuff and do it in a way that's healthy and sustainable. So what's that been like for you? What lessons have you learned along the way, and maybe some wisdom you'd like to share with other people who or sitting on the fence about doing something disruptive like this, or going against the grain, so to speak? Can you share your experience with us, please?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think it's super important. So first of all, it's so much harder than I thought to build something like this, and that's just something to be aware of. That when you're starting a company and building your own thing, and if you're trying to make a difference, you're gonna have to change things, and that's gonna be hard. So both mentally and physically, it's just a lot of hours and a lot of spent thinking on that. So that's one aspect. But I'm also learning that the kind of energy you get from working with something that matters is unbelievable, and not just for yourself, but for people around you. So I think it's important, if you're going on a venture, you have some idea, it's really important to take something that really makes a difference, makes the world a place where you'd rather have it be. Because that's what's going to get you up in the morning. That's what's going to make it easier to hire people. It's going to make it easier to get investors in. It's going to make it easier to go through this really tough journey because there's a reason for it. So really make sure to do something that you believe in, because there's so much easier ways to, if you just want to make a buck, there's easier ways to make money than to start your own company. So it needs to be because you really want to make a difference, and that's gratifying like nothing else. I've worked in big companies before, and you can feel like a little bit of a piece of a big machinery, but when you're building your own, you can go through all that hardship because you are not. If you weren't there, nothing would happen in this space. And that's pretty exciting, actually. You're really making that difference.
Thanks for sharing that with us. That is so refreshing. A few of us started this movement called Radical Purpose, which focus on this idea that most of us just really want three things. We want meaning, we want to, feel like we belong, and we want to make an impact. And it sounds to me as though the impact, the ability to make an impact, gives you the energy to keep moving forward. So for those who might be listening, focus on something that's going to make an impact. That's how you're going to get the energy to pull through when things get really hard. And it's going to get hard when you're building a company, because it's always a stretch. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for sharing that with us. We're going to stay in touch with you because we want to hear the use cases that come out of this but you got a new customer, at least on this side right here. We're going to check it out and put it into motion because I think cooking is very therapeutic. I like to cook. And for those of you who haven't done it, try it. It's actually very therapeutic to do it.
If I can do it, you can do it too.
Anything that AI can do, you can do better. That was one of the quotes from one of our guests.
It was,
So
it was a recent one.
David Reed, right? So thanks for joining us. And Carlos, do we have anything coming up tomorrow? What do we got next week?
Yeah, well, tomorrow, Tulio, we're going to be speaking. That's the last conversation of the week. We're going to be speaking with Mark Polimeni from the company. This company called Chart Duck. I don't know if you remember it, but unfortunately, it's one of those cases that everyone's doing other things, so I haven't received the topic yet or the info from the guest. That's the only information that I have. But as all of her conversations are, Tulio, and you know that they're going to be very interesting. So I encourage everyone in the audience to join us tomorrow right here at 1 p.m. Pacific, and then of course on Monday for our recap show, which is when we recap in 10 minutes all the interviews that we did the previous week. So that's what we have coming up, Tulio.
Thanks. Have a great rest of the week, and we hope to see you all back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. Be safe.
Happy cooking.